Okay, now we're going to look at a Z-rig, and I'm going to use a different method of attachment than the 3-route prusik. What I've done to start with, I've laid a pulley out here because I need one pulley at the load, and I have another pulley at the anchor. We'll look at it in a minute. It's interesting that there's a little bit of controversy about whether you should attach loads, especially rescue type stuff, with 2 triple-route prusiks called tandem prusiks, or a mechanical ascender. The nice thing about the prusiks, and again, this is not rescue training, heavy load training, it's just some tips that come from the experts. The nice thing about the prusiks, if you load them too heavily, they will slip on the rope. Sudden shock loading could generate so much heat they may melt. And in a typical tandem prusik, you've got a long one and a short one. The short one typically is the one that's supporting the load. If it gets so hot that it melts and releases, the second one picks up the slack, hopefully at a lighter load, because this has absorbed some of the shock energy. Some have the opinion that these won't work well. Once the rope gets really wet and muddy and gooey, they'll slip up and down it, and they prefer these. So the drawback to these is because of the way they're leveraged, they can actually damage the rope if they get a high impact. This one's a little bit more forgiving than some others. Specifically, a Gibbs, similar to this, can sever a 1/2-inch rope. This is not a 1/2-inch rope, it's close. Can sever the rope if 2,000 pounds are applied to the cam. So, you know, it's controversial. Just to show you again how much there is to rescue and load rigging and things like that. Don't think that a simple little pulley series is going to give you all the things you need to be a proficient rigger. Alright, so let's look at how this is going to work. I'm not going to use the prusik this time. I'm going to use a rope clamp. Some call those ascenders. It doesn't really matter. This is a Petzl rescue sender. You release it by pulling this out, pulling that out, pulling that out, install it on the rope, and put it all back together. This is a PMI grip, and it's got a little bit of an advantage to it. To get the cam out, you only have to push that up and push that out, and that comes out. Notice my pin isn't loose like this, so I can put this on the rope, put the cam back in, and just push it and it's back in, as opposed to putting this in, installing this, bringing this around, installing that, pulling that back and locking it in. So you can see there's a little bit of difference in the simplicity of installation. So just some tips there. Not that that's the last word in what you need by any means. I want to keep emphasizing that. So at this point on this end, the load end, I'm simply just going to put a carabiner through here, and we'll look now at the anchor end. Okay, here's the anchor end. Here's my anchor. Again, I'm not recommending this method as a rescue, heavy load, anything. It's just an attachment so I can illustrate a block and tackle. That's all. We want to start the Z-rig at the anchor end after we install the load pulley. Now, the thing about a Z-rig that's different than a block and tackle pulley, a block and tackle pulley, as you saw previously, requires a dedicated rope. We had to have that red 8mm prusik cord run through those pulleys. In a Z-rig, we're just going to use the haul line or the climbing rope, whatever you want to call this, as the rope that runs through the pulleys. So we're starting it up by first clamping the load pulley, and then we come back to this pulley, anchor, clip that in, and now we run this up to the load pulley. Let me zoom out and you can see that. Okay, so I have my anchor pulley threaded, and now I come up to the load pulley. And I'm just going to install this pulley right here, and you'll see I'm using the climbing line as I said, and clip that in to the pulley, and that's our 3-to-1 system in the form of a Z-rig. Now, unfortunately, I have it backwards. For you to see this, it's okay, but the Z comes from this. Is that right? No, Z would be that way, wouldn't it? I'm upside down and backwards. So that's the way this thing looks, and that doesn't need to be oriented the other way. There we go. That looks good and clean there now. So here's the Z, although it's backwards to you. When I put it over here, it's right to me. The idea behind this one is you just pull it in like you would any other. Now, I mentioned in the block and tackle segment that I had to hold this. Well, I have to hold this one too. So what I'm going to look at next is how we secure the progress we've made